Welcome in. It's the PennLive Wrestling Podcast going into week 3 of the high school wrestling season. Dave Heckard's here with me. I'm Dustin Hockensmith. We're going to look back on what happened on weekend number 2. Couple interesting tournaments. We had some interesting duels last week. And then we'll look ahead. It's a pretty light week with the holiday coming up. And I think probably some coaches, Dave, are looking forward to having that time to regroup a little bit. And just look at a few of these duels coming up this week that could kind of take shape in either a mid-pen division or in the District 3 team race too. Dave, I wanted to start though with the Carlisle Holiday Classic. And, I think you've seen that tournament. Some seasons really feature some very good weight classes. You have a good group of teams that, a lot of locals, but some coming from a little further away, your Central Bucks East and schools like that make for a pretty good competition where I know as a coach, you're kind of trying to decide, do I chase elite competition someplace else and deal with hotels and all that, or do I stay local and get some really good matches in and not have to deal with all the travel? And I think Carlisle offers teams around here a pretty good opportunity to get better without going through all that.
Yeah, Dustin, first, man, listen, to the listeners out there, I want to give a big shout out to you, Dustin, man. You're putting a lot of time here, and I called you on Friday. You're at Texas. You're at the Carlisle tournament. Saturday, you're at King of the Mountain, and just to help coverage in the area, man. I just want to give you a quick shout out, and the coaches and wrestlers around the area, man. You put in a lot of time, and to keep us up to date with what's going on, but building off of that.
I appreciate that first and foremost, and just real quick. Like a person in my position who just has to sit there in front of a computer while other guys, like you see what kids and coaches go through to get ready for the competition. And it's like, it's not fair if I'm not at least, honest with myself and saying that I'm trying my best too, but thank you.
No, all good, man. You brought up the Carlisle tournament, and it is a lot of local flavor there, right? And Chambersburg and Trinity and Gettysburg and there's a crew of local teams there, and does it have the prep school teams and the clout that like a Beast of the East has? Absolutely not. They're two different tournaments, but I think you saw some good local flavor at Carlisle. I know Coach Joe and at Carlisle, and they really do a good job with the tournament. It's important to them, and and you saw some local flavor there, and West Perry had a good tournament. The one thing that popped out to me at that tournament is Gettysburg won it, and here we are, Gettysburg won a team title 2 years ago, right? They were in the finals last year and dropped one that they could have had, and then here we are, this third year here, and Gettysburg really is a program now that, in my opinion, they're not going anywhere for a little bit, and I'm not saying that they're all of a sudden, they won a district title 2 years ago, but what you're starting to see now is that consistency, right? Like here they are, they lost some guys from last year's team, and then all of a sudden they have these new names in the lineup, and they're putting together a good enough tournament to go out and win the Carlisle tournament and do well there. Do they have guys that are going to be high state place winners on their team? Maybe not, but man, they wrestle tough, and they're not going anywhere for a little bit here, and it's good to see them start to enter that realm of being a team that shows consistency and whatnot. So kudos to them for winning that tournament, and
10 guys on the podium, Dave. 10 guys on the podium. Yeah. And I think it just speaks to their recipe and their formula. And I think there are some teams, like obviously a District 3 team title means something to everybody, but there are some teams that really kind of burn for that, and they build for that, and they preach that mentality, and they teach it to wrestle so complementary in duels, and the art of shaving bonus and getting bonus, and all those things are what Gettysburg does really well. And there are going to be some years where they get out hammered by somebody, and Central Dauphin was that team that just kind of out hammered them last year. And I don't see anybody in District 3 who's really gonna have an edge in that stud department over them, to believe that Gettysburg isn't going to be at least in that District 3 final. I like what Hempfield has, but it's really hard for me to bet against Gettysburg because they care so much and they wrestle duels so well.
Yeah, they do. And um, the right now, you and I were just talking earlier, there's not a clear-cut favorite in the District 3 AAA team race. I mean, there's some teams that you can put in that conversation, but who's ready to win this thing? And Gettysburg, as good as they are, they're one matchup team-wise away. I mean, teams match up well with other teams and you don't match up well with teams. Well, Gettysburg is a team that, like any other team in District 3, as good as they are, I don't know that team, but who matches up well with them, and I feel like, that could be interesting if somebody does match up well with them. So, I mean, every team in District 3 right now, in my opinion, is one bad matchup away from a team from getting beat. And, and it's still early, right? Like, I mean, guys are going to be dropping weights here. And, you have on Saturday, December 25th, you get to 2 pounds. It's like a holiday within a holiday for wrestlers, right?
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to see a lot of teams, like, the shape of their lineup's going to change and all that. So, heading in here to the holidays. So.
A couple, individual performances that really jumped out, and you can feel free to jump in there with other, but just going up the lineup. So Major Lewis at Trinity, the junior at 106, pretty dominant in this tournament. I think, just one of those efforts that, I don't know if turning the corner or coming out party, or, I don't think any of those phrases really fit, but I did want to see this type of effort for Major Lewis, to really think about him in terms of being a District 3 guy and being a state qualifier and really getting to that next level. And it looks like he's doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and he pinned everybody. He pinned the whole way through the tournament. So, I mean, here you have a kid that's experienced. He's a hard worker. He's into the sport of wrestling, and he's a junior at 106. Like, that's a weight class where you usually get a predominantly younger crew of kids because they're smaller, and that's how it goes. But you start to get to juniors and seniors at 106. I mean, look out, So I expect him to make a nice statement here at the end of the year and be a wrestler in the area that we can watch, at the state tournament. But he had a great tournament this weekend for sure, pinning his way through, like I said.
Trenton Walker from Carlisle, I think he's put in the work to stay down at 120 and be a senior there. And I think he's shown some exciting things, and he can wrestle with an incredible pace. And if he's able to kind of put the consistency together and really bring all those pieces together, I do think he's a dangerous guy. He scores 25 points in a Tech Fall win in that 120 final. And again, I mean, I think a really good confidence builder that he's able to take another step forward too, because I love how he wrestles, and I love watching him wrestle and that pace, and he's not afraid to attack. He's not afraid to open up. I don't think he's afraid of making a mistake. So I want to see Trenton Walker take that next step and kind of peak in the postseason and do some damage there, because I believe he can.
He's really improved. I mean, from where he started, his high school career to now. And, he did have an impressive tournament. I mean, the finals, like you said, it was really impressive. And again, a guy, like you said, that come to the postseason, and he does well in the postseason, but he's always like a win or two away from where I think he wants to get to, where Carlisle's staff wants him to be, right? So, his senior year, though, I mean, he couldn't have started off any better, really, for his senior year here, winning the Carlisle tournament and moving forward. But he's a tough kid. Like I said, has really improved from, his beginning of his high school career, from what I remember him as to now, has shown a lot of improvement. So, again, he'll be an interesting character to watch here coming into the postseason too. So.
Luke Mentzer from Chambersburg, he's another guy. Like, I think it might be a little easy to sleep on him a bit now, but this is a really seasoned kid, obviously the son of a coach, good and technical. He's a long kid. I mean, at 126 pounds. I mean, I think he's a guy that you hate to say sneak up on, because anybody who follows wrestling in District 3 kind of knows the name and has seen him, but I still think there's some good things out there. He wins a championship there at 126. He beats a kid from Dylan Reiner from Brandywine Heights, who I think is a 2-time state qualifier from AA. Yeah. And I think, just like Trenton Walker, a good tournament to kind of build off of that for him.
Yeah, I like Luke. He's fun to watch wrestle. Like, he's not afraid to throw people on their back, and here's the key, right? He has a good workout partner. we talk about this stuff and when you have a good workout partner in the room, I mean, he's working out with a state runner up, right? So, every day coming into the room and working out with that guy, you're getting better. And so that's important too. I think, even moving forward for everybody, like, your workout partners, like who do you work out with? And, when he has Carl Schendeldecker, state runner up in the room, I mean, at the weight next to him, I mean, there's a great partner. So, and again, he's a guy that really, I think as a freshman, did he get fourth at regionals, or he was a match away from states, like maybe missed it, but he was right there on that cusp of qualifying for the state tournament. Hasn't done it yet, but I think this year you're going to see a kid that, that jump from your sophomore to junior year is big, and you're going to see him, I think, do some good things here.
I think the story of the tournament, Dave, and I'm not sure, I wasn't trying to bury the lead. We're just kind of working our way up, and I think we can circle back around to some others too. But Ganon Smith at 160, so he pins Michael Dugan, PIAA bronze medalist, pins Michael Dugan, wins that 160 weight class. He also had a good win earlier last week against Justice Hockenberry Folk from West Perry. And, this is a kid too, I think he made the state tournament as a 106 pounder and has gone through that journey of climbing the lineup. Is an interesting thing to watch for a kid who has success at 106, but whose body they grow out of that. And I think another good one is Caden Dobbins from Dallastown. I put in that category, guys who shoot up into the middle of the lineup. And to me, it's like, okay, Ganon Smith has settled into that spot now, which might be an understatement.
Well, here's the deal, right? So when you are an upper weight and you started your career light, you know how to wrestle. Now, not that I'm gonna I don't want to throw any shots here at upper weights, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, if you are a lightweight wrestler and you learn how to wrestle like a lightweight and you grow and get big, you're gonna have success. I mean, I could go through multiple guys. I mean, right off the top of my head, the Harkless kid from Wilson that Jake wrestled in the finals last year, that kid started his career at 132 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, so now he's a 215 pounder. Well, guess what? These guys know how to wrestle, and that's what you're seeing there. Here's Ganon Smith, starts his career at 106. Well, now he's at 60. And he's used to moving, he's used to wrestling. And, when that match happened, I got a text from somebody. It said like, hey, Dugan was losing and got pinned. Like it wasn't like he got caught. And that was a big shock. Like, start looking up Ganon Smith and what he's all about. And, but that's the great part about wrestling, right? Like here you are, you're Dugan's a state bronze medalist, and, it happens, right? You get beat, and, like I said, that's a great win for Smith, and a guy that in District 3 and across the state here with that win. I mean, somebody else that we can keep our eye on in the AA field to medal, and kudos to him, and to go out there and to take on a kid like Dugan, and to have the confidence and all that to get that win is impressive for sure.
We're saying, takes nothing away from Dugan. I think Dugan with the Cumberland Valley kickoff finals, where he's down, couldn't get his offense going, then he comes firing back in that one. Different lessons to learn, I think, for him. And
I think he's upperweight too.
He is, yeah. He's on his way down.
Right.
So I think that shows up. It is. Yeah. So I think he's going to be good. I think probably, here as we turn the calendar into January coming up, it's just one of those things, he can be better from the losses. And that's what you're looking for as a coach.
No doubt. And let me say this, right? Like, so for you young wrestlers out there, right? So here's Michael Dugan, a guy supposed to win the tournament. He goes out, he gets beaten, he gets pinned, right? But what's he do? What's his response to that? His response is he wrestles the whole way back, beats a tough Jake Cherry, right? And gets third. Right. Like, so that's an important thing, right? Like after you lose, are you going to feel sorry for yourself? Are you going to sulk? You know what I mean? Or are you going to pack it in? Like, heck no, you're not, right? You got to fire back, and you got to keep wrestling. And so as much as it was like, oh, Michael Dugan got beat, well, big deal. I mean, it's Christmas isn't even here yet. He's going to be a guy at the end of the year. He's there. We know that, right? But what's he do? He sucks it up. And he comes back and he gets a third. So, you younger wrestlers out there, winning and losing, yeah, that's a big thing. But I like to see guys that lose and come back and battle back and get that third or get that fifth or whatever it may be, and so it was good to see that, I think.
And I've heard from college coaches too, just about looking at a kid losing. You talk about like obviously, your successes can kind of define how far you can go in the sport, but I think just indications of your attitude, there are people watching that, and there are young kids watching that, and if you are a guy who is in that next level conversation, who can maybe consider wrestling in college, how you respond when something doesn't go your way can really define how those people view you too. And I think that's an important lesson. And Michael Dugan, as much as anybody that I have followed and have watched and talked to, has that steady attitude about him where like he understands that stuff's going to go sideways sometimes in match, in tournaments, whatever, and can kind of compartmentalize that and not let that define what he's going to go out there and do the next time, because it looks bad on you if you throw a fit.
Right.
It looks bad. It looks bad on you if you're a guy like that, and it's clear that you sulked going into the consolation round and you lose
Right.
again. So
Right.
good on him.
Yep. Absolutely.
A couple others that I want to mention too is Reese Blulek from Redland. Interested to see what he can do as a senior. He's a guy who can level up too. He beats Nolan Ziegler, who won a state medal in AA last year for that 138 title. And then at 285, Leighton Schmick from Carlisle. I think it was 7-3 in the final over Trevor Gallagher from Gettysburg. It's a matchup that we will absolutely see again. I presume, those are two big time contenders for that District 3 title. Love what Leighton Schmick did there, but I think they both kind of understand he's going to have to do it again, which is a challenge in its own right. And Gallagher's probably going to get another shot at him.
Yeah, I think they've wrestled multiple times now. That 4 or 5 times. I think they're about even. Two of the better heavyweights that you're going to see, even in not even the area, just the district period. And and I know Schmick got the best of him. In the finals of the Carlisle tournament. But again, at the postseason, if Gallagher comes back and beats him, you're not going to remember the Carlisle Christmas tournament, right? You learn from those things and move on. But both of those guys are big, strong heavyweights, and they can wrestle. As far as the Palala kid from Redland, here's a guy I got to see at the Cumber Valley Kickoff Classic a little bit, and he battled through there, and but just him as a person, from last year to this year, at the postseason last year, Redland came over and worked out with Cumberland Valley, and I got to see him in the practice room a little bit. And, this year he just looks like a young man now. He's 18. He looks like he's bought in. He looks like he's on the right trajectory. So I think to be honest with you, that was an impressive win for him to beat Ziegler, in my opinion. I definitely thought Ziegler would beat him. But that's a great win for him. And even moving into the holiday season here with everything, getting some confidence there, and good for him and Redland and Coach Baglio. So.
Good reminder with him, and there's a bunch of reminders as you're following this sport, and you're also kind of keeping in mind that between ages 14 or 15 and 18, how much growth and change happens with a person as an individual, let alone as a wrestler. You're talking about some years where you might grow and change more during this stretch of your life than you ever do again. And it's just another fresh reminder, if you follow a kid from freshman to senior, just how things can change and how maturity kind of plays into it, and kind of seeing it with Reese now with a big win this past weekend.
Yeah, one of the best coaches I was ever around in my life was Tim Rimford. And I remember him, and even Gary Quigley was an assistant of his, and both those guys great people. And listeners might not even know who they are, but either way, I remember coaching with Tim and going through the lifting program and talking about kids. And I remember him telling me in high school, never give up on a kid. Right? You're 9th grade, 10th grade, and then all of a sudden, they gain 3 inches and 30 pounds. And all of a sudden you're looking at this kid going, holy cow, this guy is, and to that point, so much growth from the age of 14, 15 to 18. Right. So, and you see that, I like to see guys like the Palala kid who battled through some adversity and they keep working and they keep chopping wood. And here he is his senior year, and he's getting something from the sport. He's he's mature, he's winning some tournaments, and see that process. That's a good thing. So
shifting gears a little bit to King of the Mountain, and we'll go back to that 14 age end of the spectrum with Aaron Seidel from Northern Lebanon. I mean, this is a kid, and I joked with Rusty Wallace he really looks like he could pass his 8. You know, if he was wrestling bantam and he was wrestling in the 8 to 10 age bracket, I wouldn't be surprised. But this is a kid who you know, so good, so technical, has a really, really good head on his shoulders, works like crazy. And this was a good coming out party for him, so to speak. I say coming out, he's ranked number 2 in the state, but he battles through, beats a really good kid in AAA, I think ranked number 4 in the state, Luke Willishell from Greater Latrobe in the semifinals, and then doesn't give up a point in the King of the Mountain finals to a kid from Franklin Regional who beat the number 2 kid in the state from Seneca Valley, who was at the Cumberland Valley Kickoff Classic, who beat Connor Killian there. So really strong effort from Aaron Seidel. And the thing that really jumps out, and this is Northern Lebanon's first ever finalist at King of the Mountain, first ever champion, our only local kid who did get to the top of the podium there, which was a really super tough tournament, even by King of the Mountain standards this year. But in that semifinal match, it's tied 4-4. Kid chooses bottom. So Aaron Seidel starts on top, and I'm watching the clock, and I'm watching his corner, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, at what point in time do you go from trying to ride to conceding a point and leaving yourself some time? And I was really impressed by the fact that he chose to ride. He stayed calm. He didn't panic. He stuck to what he does, and he gets a turn for a 7-4 win. I just thought that commitment in the third period of a match against a really good kid was really telling.
You know, that's experience, man. I mean, here's a kid, I don't care what grade he's in. I mean, he's been doing this craft for a long time. And it's so funny you said about him looking young. I saw a post where, you know, and this was cool too, that he was at like I think on Sunday at a tournament, like helping youth wrestlers and all that. And like they had a picture of him like helping youth wrestler, and I didn't know which one he was. Like, you know what I mean? Like looking at, I'm serious. Like you said that, but yeah, you know, looks can be deceiving though. You know, he's a tough customer, and I good for him too, and Northern Lebanon getting that champ, and another brutal tournament with the King of the Mountain. I mean, just brutal. And you know, to get that win there, and like you said, to do it in the mature fashion that he did it, you know, to not panic, to keep riding, to get his turn to the championship. I mean, that shows a lot of poise. I mean, that's what you're going to have to do at the state tournament to win a state medal. So you're seeing, you know, signs of that at an early age. I mean, 9th grade, you know, able to remain calm like that. And again, he's a seasoned wrestler and has wrestled, you know, hundreds of matches in his life, and is an impressive kid for sure.
Northern's Cole Bartram, sophomore, who you know, I think made a really big statement opening weekend by winning the CV Kickoff Classic, by beating the number 10 kid in the state, by winning by technical fall there. Well, he did the same thing to get to the finals at 172 at King of the Mountain, but he ran into a kid who has a lot of experience, Matt Furman from Cannon Mac, who had an answer to everything that Bartram wanted to do, and trying in match to find a solution to that. And the first thing that really came to me was that, yes, this kid has steamrolled everybody, but I think it was probably a pretty healthy experience for him to go in and not be able to figure out, like, what happened? You know, why couldn't I get to my stuff? And the answer was, I mean, the other kid probably just deserves some credit for that. And I think it's great to experience as much success as Cole experienced this year, especially the way last year went, where I know he wanted more out of last year. But to run into some adversity and to really go back into the room with a lesson and with something that says, okay, how do I not allow my opponent to dictate the match? Because this was his first taste of it. And I think in the grand scheme of things, probably a good thing for him to go through that.
You know, and we can kind of head into our talk about even Christmas break and where we're at right now as wrestlers. But I mean, I think, you know, Cole Bartram has had an outstanding beginning of the year, right? Like, you know, winning the Kickoff Classic, steamrolling his way to the finals in the King of the Mountain. And guess what? You know, you can't get it ebbs and flows, right? Like you're steamrolling people, and guess what? You got handled in the finals, right? So my philosophy is this: as much as it was my job as a coach to get my kids and prepare them to win, it's my job to get them a loss. You see, like your schedule, like, you know, if that kid runs through the whole season and doesn't experience any adversity, well, there's no growth from that. and I think for him, everything's fine. Everything's on point. He's wrestling well. He ran into a tough customer in the finals. I'm sure Coach Nowman will go back, Dan and him will go back, take a look at it and see what you need to fix up to close that gap. And people don't realize like the minimal amount of technical change that you need to make in a match to close that gap. Very minimal, little things can change and make a big difference. So, and how do you figure out where your weaknesses are? Well, you got to wrestle somebody that's better and exposes those weaknesses, and like I said, moving into the winter break here, to Christmas break. Here you are, you're wrestling and the start of the season and maybe it's going well for you, like a Bartram and you're headed in the right direction. If that's the case, let's keep heading in that direction. But again, if things didn't work out, heading in here to the Christmas break and the beginning of the season, and you're experiencing some difficulties, maybe you're a freshman, maybe you're a sophomore, the key is the end of the year, right? Like, so you want to be at your best come the postseason. And you got to keep that in mind. And moving through the beginning of the year here, you might have went to some tournaments that maybe you were outclassed in. Like maybe you went to a kickoff classic, Cumberland Valley kickoff classic, and a Beast of the East, or two big tournaments like that. And you may be like a guy that's like a first year starter, and maybe you got one win between two tournaments, and here's the deal, like your time will come too, like team wrestling, right? Like the whole month of January is about team wrestling. And the cool part about that is the kids that aren't your state medal winners can impact the team. Not even by winning, like even if you go out and you wrestle a hard 6 minutes and you don't give up a pin against somebody good, like your losses can be wins for the team. So your time will come. Just keep working, and wrestling's a sport of attrition, right? Like you just got to keep sticking with it and keep working, and that can be hard sometimes because we live in a society today that wants instant gratification, right? Like we want to show up, we want to win. I was having this conversations with my daughter. She plays softball. Well, she thinks that because she goes out and throws the ball in the air and catches it, that all of a sudden, like, she should be this awesome softball player. Well, the reality is, like, that's not the case. Like, you don't get instant gratification. You got to work at things. You got to persevere. You got to experience some setbacks. You got to experience some success. And, it all goes in one thing there. And wrestling is not a sport of instant gratification. If you're looking for that, you're in the wrong sport. So you might be a little banged up right now. You might be a little bruised. That's part of the sport, and suck it up, quit complaining, we've all been there. Right. And keep improving, man, keep working.
I hate to gloss over too much here, but I want to get you a chance to preview a few matches.
Oh yeah, you're good. You're good.
CDCV is kind of one of those battles of attrition and things not going right for either team, but certainly Cumberland Valley comes in a little handcuffed. CD wins that one 26-23. Interesting time that first full week of the season to wrestle it. CD then turns around, goes to the Beast of the East. Not a great showing out there. Ryan Garvick's their only guy to get to day 2, and then Cumberland Valley goes up to King of the Mountain. Same night as they lose that duel, they're up at 7 the next morning, and they wrestled that tournament. Gabe Belga finishes 5th. Rocco Fratelli from Northern also finished 5th. Look ahead to this week real quick. What are you looking forward to? A couple highlights.
Oh man, well, the CD match was a good match, but again, no surprise. Like, I said, even going into it, and keeping it together. Right. Like, so this is what I mean. Like, here we go. Like, Cumberland Valley showed up with 2 guys out. Well, Central Dauphin didn't. So Central Dauphin was a better team that day because they kept it together. Okay. But both those teams are going to be teams that are in it come postseason, and both will have guys moving around, dropping weights, and, all that fun stuff. And, kudos to both teams. Kudos to Jeff for a great match, getting a big victory, and, to kind of help you out there. Like, looking ahead here, though, what do you see for this week, match-wise? We got a Mechanicsburg, Redland, West Perry, East Penn, Big Spring, Shippensburg, right? The Barrick Brothers, Trinity, Harrisburg, CD East, LD, Cumberland Valley, Spring Grove's a nice one. So you got some matches floating around here this week. Nothing too crazy. I think you kind of said that a little earlier, and we're kind of hitting that holiday break here. But some interesting matches as far as where teams are headed. And I think, interesting week here. Not too crazy. I was looking at schedules. of those matches. I mean, there's some interesting individual matchups in some of those, but yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I want to see more, from Diesel Kozer from Shippensburg, really off to a really good start. I think he'll probably get a good match against Big Spring, looking at an individual there. West Perry going to East Penn. West Perry's been super active. They wrestled a lot in the first 2 weeks of the season. Where are they at health-wise, fatigue-wise, all that stuff? Trinity Harrisburg is to me a battle for that next tier. We're assuming that Vic Devitt's that the class of that Capital Division. Where does Harrisburg stand? It's a good opportunity, I think, for them wrestling in their home gym against Trinity. And then CB Spring Grove, how much does CB have left in the tank? They're going to go make that trip. Not that you're talking about a huge trip, but what, an hour or so to get down to Spring Grove and wrestle those guys who are pretty tough and pretty deep. Where's your lineup at? If you're Billy and this will have, maybe of all the matches this week, the most implications in the District 3 title race.
Yeah. No, I mean, and here's the deal: Spring Grove, coached by Tyke Conover. I really like that group of coaches and those guys down there at Spring Grove. I really have a lot of respect for Tyke and that whole crew down there. Even Tony Miller, when he was coaching there, was, a good guy. And my wife is from Hanover, so she actually graduated with Tyke, and he's always a guy that, at tournaments I like to go and talk to and see, and even his father. And these are wrestling guys. These are good people, man. And, he's going to have his Spring Grove crew ready to go. And, I even think he's done a good job with them. I feel like he's getting them a little more exposure with some tougher tournaments. And, wrestling at Cumberland Valley in December shows that, hey, he's ready to put his squad out there and get to work. And he knows what it takes, right? So that'll be an interesting matchup. I don't know. I got to take a look at where Cumberland Valley is going to be after the weekend here. Where's guys injured, guys out, and Spring Grove the same way. So, take a look at that match. I think that's on Thursday, right? Is that Wednesday or Thursday?
I believe they're wrestling Wednesday. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's another match here. You have East and LD, where you have two teams in the Keystone that were at the bottom last year, both of them trying to improve their programs. So that's interesting one to me too. Just to see where those two teams are at. So,
and I think both of them probably feel pretty good going into that one. So I'm curious to see what the outcome is and some of those individual matchups, and if some of those individuals can kind of keep the ball rolling a bit. Looking at a guy like Marcel McDaniels, who we talked about last week. So there you go. It's a little bit of a light week. We go into the holiday break this weekend. Wrestlers will get the 2-pound allowance coming up this weekend, which, as you mentioned, holiday within a holiday. And then we pick right back up Trojan Wars, Powerade. I mean, enjoy the light week while you can. We'll get back to business here next week, and we will join you next week here on the PennLive Wrestling Podcast. Dave will be with us on Monday to recap what we saw, and more importantly, I think look ahead to some of those big events. So make sure you tune in next time. Download, subscribe on Spotify, Acast, and some other iTunes and iHeartRadio.
Yeah, I mean, looking ahead here for you guys heading into winter break, Christmas break. Here's the deal, right? Like you enter Christmas vacation, and you probably have practices in the morning, and here's a great time to train. You probably don't have a lot of comps. You have all this time off. You can really focus on your training. Get your tuchus out of bed, get the practice in the morning, get a good couple hour practice in, get your lifts in, and head into the Christmas break with the mindset of improvement instead of we have Christmas break and we have practice over break. Let's head into the Christmas break here and look for it as an opportunity to improve. I think sometimes you enter that Christmas break and the mindset of wrestlers is we got to get up in the morning for practice. And, again, no feeling sorry for yourself. Get out of bed, look to improve, keep working hard and get better. So
I think more than I like to admit, I'm the second person in that scenario. So I take a lot of inspiration, even in it's not training, but it's like typing or whatever I got to do. I walk out of this thing inspired, Dave, and I thank you for that. I hope everybody else does too. Thanks for tuning into this edition of the PennLive Wrestling Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy the holiday, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Yep. Happy holidays.